Hello and welcome to Mini-Age Painting. Today we're going to paint a Draugr Deathlord from Skyrim. This model was a paid commission done for a close friend of mine. We're going to start this paint job with a black prime using Army Painter Matte Black Spray Primer, and then a zenithal highlight using Citadel White Scar Spray Primer. For the first color, we're going to use some Rakarth flesh. This color is going to go on any portion of exposed skin, any of the exposed bones, as well as the horns on the helmet. After this, we'll take Rhinox hide and do all of the flowing leather clothing. Now let's take some Abaddon Black and do the straps that hold the armor onto the model, as well as the handle of the axe. Finally, let's take Leadbelcher and put this on all of the armor. Let's move on to shading. We'll start with Druchii Violet on the skin of the model. We're going to use it to give it the start of that cold, dead look that these guys have. But what about the armor and bones? We'll take Agrek's Earthshade and apply that to both of these areas. Also throw some of this onto the horns of the helmet. Now we're going to shade the cloth with Seraphim Sepia. This will give it a worn look. Finally, we'll take some Carroburg Crimson and apply this to the flesh as well. Well, how about the highlights? We're going to go back to Rakarth flesh and apply this to the higher points of the flesh, while leaving the recesses the shaded color. This model is nice for this type of highlight because of the muscle definition. For a last highlight on the skin, we'll use Pallid Witch Flesh in the same way that we applied the Rakarth flesh, but on less of the surface area. We'll also use this color to highlight the horns on the helmet. Now let's move on to highlighting the armor. For this, we're going to use Stormhost Silver. Put this onto any sharp edges, the details on the shoulders, helmet, and use it to help draw the eye towards any scratches or dents in the armor. We'll also apply the same color to the runes on the axe. This is to help the effect that we'll add on the last step of the painting process. We can finish the armor by applying Typhus Corrosion to the armor's deeper parts, the axe's blade, and any part that would accumulate rust. As a tip, be sure to use an old and mostly dead brush for this step, because Typhus Corrosion is very damaging to brushes. We'll move on to highlighting the black details. For this, we'll start with Dark Reaper. We'll apply this color to all the edges of the parts we base coated with Abaddon Black. Don't put this color into any recesses of the handle, as this will help with definition instead of just leaving it a flat black. Finally, we'll take Fenrisian Grey and apply this to only the topmost edges of the black and the topmost straps of the axe handle. This will mimic light hitting it from above. Now that the model is almost finished, let's start work on the base. We'll take some Mechanicus Standard Grey and coat the stone of the base. We'll need at least 2 coats for a solid color. Next, I used 3 thin coats of Grey Seer to get a solid color on the crystals here on the base. Grey Seer is an excellent color for the contrast paint I'll add at the end. For a final base coat, we'll take Mournfang Brown and apply this to the ropes that are coiled around this crystal. Let's apply some highlights to the crystals with white scar. Apply this color to all the edges of these crystals. This will add color variation when we put on the contrast paint. Before adding it though, we are going to finish the stone effect by stippling a couple of colors onto the stone. Stippling is when you take a brush that is somewhat flayed at the end, and similar to dry brushing, we take most of the paint off of the brush and then basically hit the brush onto the base multiple times in somewhat random patterns. The paints that we use for this effect are in order: Eshin Grey, Dawnstone, Administratum Grey, Corvus Black, and a final stipple of Mechanicus Standard Grey. Once this dries, it'll look like shale. One last thing I forgot to mention. We need to apply some white scar to the eye sockets. Now we can apply some liquid magic to the model. We'll use a contrast paint called Frostheart to give the crystals, axe, and eyes a blue glow. The white scar we added to the crystals helps the edges pop underneath the Frostheart. As a final touch, I added some Valhallan Blizzard to the base, in spots on the model where snow would rest, like the cavity in his stomach, the armor panels, and on his helmet. I added this because Skyrim likes its snow, and to be honest, so do I. Once again, thank you for watching. What do you think of this model? And what should I paint next? Leave your suggestions in the comments below.